Hi, my name is Davin Sundvik with The Catch today, and we're going to be going over the survival skill of cleanliness, how to be clean and manage water in order to survive a lot longer in the wilderness. And it's survival skill number 7 in my 12 survival skills everybody needs to know series. Making the series because I was stuck in the woods for 3 days. And I want to be able to leverage that experience to help you as much as possible. So that way you can get something out of it in case you want to know how to survive a situation like that or hopefully prevent it from happening in the first place. So, with that being said, let's get right into the content. I feel like cleanliness, we have three main types of cleanliness. We have the cleanliness of like preventing septic shock. These are like open wounds and things like that. Obviously, those have to be handled urgently and with some type of a medical kit of some way, shape, or form. But we have to have clean water in order to do this. I would go so far to even say, if I had to, I would use my drinking water because we're talking about a survival situation where you could die in a matter of minutes or hours. You're not worried about dehydration if you got an open and bloody wound. When we're talking about preventing moisture from getting into areas that we don't want to get into. So, for example, I was stuck in nights that were really, really long nights, getting down to as low as 5 degrees at the coldest part of the night. And I tell you, you really value how essential dry things are, right? The fact that I had a dry sleeping bag made that experience just absolutely way more tolerable, and in my opinion, survivable. So managing dryness it's in that 3 hour time frame. Like I wouldn't drink water in bed because I was thirsty at the risk of spilling water all over my dry sleeping bag. No way, right? So there are a couple of things that do actually take priority over drinking water. The next one is a really interesting one that people overlook, and I feel like it's the most important. It's actually equally as important because I feel like this is really the one that can 10x the ability of your survivability in a situation, and that is contaminated food, right? If we cannot boil water or cook food properly, or we can't identify a species of plant that is edible or is not edible, you can take a survival situation where you were capable of surviving roughly a month and turn it down into a survival situation where you're only surviving 3 days or less, just because you're eating contaminated foods. And so definitely don't do that. If you have the choice of not eating or eating contaminated food, don't do it. Now, for me, in the very beginning stages, I had a plan, and so because I had a plan, my strategy was just to stick to that plan. I had lots of time at night to be able to come up with a plan that I believe to be the best use of my resources at the time. Now, when you have long nights where you can sleep and you can think, that is an asset, even though I'm battling the cold, but it's still, the brain is still an asset, right? So my strategy was to only eat once a day for the first 2 days and get my notes out and get all these things done that allow me to get found faster and use a lot of my my rations, like my water rations. So I wasn't as concerned about contaminating my water because my water bottles have handles, right? And so I can grab the handle of the water bottle, drink the water without contaminating the lips of the water. And I had a big gallon of water, that was my rations. And I had to keep those from freezing, but as long as I could keep them from freezing, then I was all good. So fire was a super important element, and being able to dry off my clothes and my boots in order to walk places. Like I said, I was walking notes in order to be found, so that was my strategy. And it worked, but it was at the expense of creating the ability to create like a hand washing station. And so for me to wash my hands, I had to boil snow, and things like that. So for me, cooking one meal was a 2 hour endeavor. And that sounds unreasonable, but yeah, literally the daylight would start to go down at around 3 o'clock. And the reason is because even though I could still see, I was just in the shadow of the mountain. So that's when the temperature started to plummet. And pretty much it's like either you go to bed or you eat food. There's really not much else you can do at that point in time. So that's when I would do on day 1 and on day 2, that's when I did my hand washing is at night or as the sun was going down. And it wasn't a good system. It just, it took forever to do, but it was really important, right? Getting that meal in kept me warm throughout the night. It was essential calories that I needed. But if I couldn't have been clean, I just wouldn't have eaten, honestly. So now the next step goes into day 3. I actually was able to create a hand washing station on day 3 because I was really confident about my notes on the roads and being found. I knew that when rescue was going to be on its way, they were going to be able to find me. And so now I could really dial in how to survive longer. And that's what I want to talk about right now, is what it takes to do that. First step's fire. If you don't have fire, a lot of things you can't do without fire. Next thing you need is, next thing I needed to boil water. So literally I took chunks of dirty ice, boiled it, and drilled it through the ice that was on the river, so that way I could scoop water from the river. That was a pain in the ass, but I got it done. And now I had access to flowing water. So fire and access to flowing water. Now I can continually boil water. And what I would do is I would take that boiled water and I'd put it into my fresh water, right? And so that way my stomach can get adjusted to the minerals that were in the water, but it was a diluted amount of minerals. So that's what I would do there for my drinking water. And then for cleaning water, now I could boil rags that I was using for cleaning, right? And things like that. So now I was able to wash things with soap, and I had a basin and all that kind of stuff. It really took 4 water vessels in order to have a clean drinking solution. I had a cleaning basin, I had a pot for boiling, I had a jug for storing large amounts of water, and I had a personal water bottle for pouring my water storage into my drinking vessel. So it takes 4 vessels of water to have like a really good water system going. The next thing that was important is now I have the ability to use the fire to dry off my boots, which were getting wet. I was drying my boots off along the way, but now I have like a system where I'm like just managing the fire and I'm managing the water, right? And that's all my focus is going to. So now I'm much more successful with this, right? Because first of all, my focus was really geared first on like, how do I get found? But then once that system is solved, it's a passive system, right? There's passive benefits to having the notes on the road. It's not something I have to focus on anymore. But the water situation is something I had to focus on every single day. So on day 3, I was actually able to eat 2 meals instead of 1. Actually, I was able to eat a 3rd meal, but it was like really late at night, and it was after I'd gotten rescued. So I don't really consider that like a survival meal. But yeah, now I was in a situation where if I had to boil, like for example, my laundry, I could boil my laundry and clean it and then dry it either with the sun or with the fire. And I had the time to manage these things. So I call that the day 4 mindset. I knew that, and like I said, I just followed with the plan. So I created a plan, and I knew in this plan, okay, I knew once day 4 hit, every single day was going to be like day 4. I would wake up, I'd be managing drying clothes and boiling clothes and cleaning clothes, and I'd be managing my water source and my hole, right, in the ice. And I'd be cutting wood and managing the fire, and it was just all manage and maintenance, right? And I knew that I could do that and start to just ration my food and say, okay, well, starting today, I'm just going to eat less and less and less and less food, because I know I can't out hunt my hunger, right? Especially in the wilderness out there, it just would have been impossible. But I knew I had enough food to start managing from there. And then at that point in time, it would have just been a nutrition game. So while cleanliness is super important, it then leads you to the next step. All right. So without cleanliness, without those systems, without water management, you really don't have a lot. So I know I was talking fast in this video is because I was trying to get as much information into your mind as possible and get you thinking, right? I want to get you thinking in that mindset of not of how can I get my hands clean so I can eat this meal that's right in front of me, but how do I get myself clean all the time? How do I maintain cleaning things to where it's just a habit? It's just a system. It's just something you do. And then now you can focus more long term. and really extend your time out. I really do truly believe that if I had gotten like through that first month, I would have figured out a system to then extend for another month. I think it would have been possible, for sure. You watch those people on, um, on these survival shows where people survive for 40 plus days, with way less tools than what I had. And so I do believe that that it could have been extended. But I'm just saying that this one skill is what gets you to day 30. So hopefully it makes sense. Hopefully you understand the strategy. It's really not something that takes a whole lot of nuance to explain. Fire is one of those skills I'll probably have to just straight up show you how to make fire, how to manage firewood. But that's a topic for another day. So we were able to get through 7 skills just on a talking head video. I was able to just pump these videos out, which I love doing. I love just pumping the content out for you guys. But yeah, we're probably getting into those skill sets where I'm just going to have to show you, which I'm sure you'll be way more excited about than just watching me talk to a camera. So thank you for watching. Have a great day.